Hey everyone, welcome back. First of all, let me apologize. My voice is a bit croaky today. But we are so close to finishing, and I just want to, finish this project off because I really want to do something else very soon as well. So where we've got up to now is we want to set up a page so that our users can log in and log out, and then hopefully register as well. So to do all of that, we need to import well, we could just follow the guidance on the Django authentication system because it's all documented very well. I'm not going to follow it completely. If we scroll down, there is, where are we? Using the authentication views. This is kind of what we need, really. Here it tells us that there are different methods to implement these views in your project. So these views come built in. In the past, if you remember, you would remember that we already have, for example, the admin in our URLs. So the admin site URLs, these are sort of views and the functions are already built in. So what we want to do is we want to throw in the authentication ones as well. So we'll just copy this and we'll just add this, oops, to our page. So that will go there. And then now that allows us to have a bunch of built-in functions for logging in and logging out, but it doesn't include a template. So we have to include the template ourselves. In the templates folder, we're going to make a new folder called registration, and then inside that, we're going to have a new file called login.html. And again, this is all in the documentation. So if we scroll down a bit, it should be here. There we go. It tells us here, here's a sample of what registration and login will look like. Now this is, it is quite comprehensive. We don't need all of this, but I do like the way this is laid out. So in actual fact, I mean, all we really need is we need to extend our base template. So what I'll do, I guess, is I'll copy that. We'll do that. And then we'll end our block content as well. And so then we just add our form. And the form can be a lot more straightforward. It doesn't have to be as complex as the other one. So for example, it could just be a simple form like this. Now, what's interesting here is the form comes built into the function that we've imported here in URLs by. And so when we reference the form in our template, this line here that says as p means take every item from the form. So the part about username, the part about password, and it says as p. So basically, display as a parrot on its own line. We're going to change that, and we'll bootstrapify things a bit as well. Okay, so one of the next things we want to do is we do want to let Django know in the settings file some of the changes that we've made, and we'll explain that in a second. So we want to, at the bottom of our page here, we want to tell it where the login, once a person logs in, redirect.url equals that. So we want to tell Django where we want it to go once it logs in and once it logs out. Oops, that should be capitals. So that's that. And then we'll give this a go. Let's see how it looks right now. I think that covers everything that we need to do right now. So let's try that out. Let's run our server. So let's start by going to the admin site because we've been using the admin site to log in and log out. So let's just log out here. We've logged out, and actually you've seen now, as soon as I've logged out, it's actually redirected me straight to the home page. So now what should be able to happen is I should be able to say accounts /login. So that takes us to this new page now. And if you remember, my login and password was admin, which I would never really do. But okay, so now that's worked. We're logged in and it's taking us to this new page, and it's taking us back to the home page, but we're logged in. That's cool. So what we want to do now is we want to dress that login a little more. Okay, so what I've decided to go with here is is a snippet of code, like a Bootstrap login form that I found online. And what I like about this is it just uses, it's just a bit of HTML and some CSS to style it all. So to start off, let's go back to our HTML page and let's dress it up a bit, right? So I'm going to take from here, where we have the body, this is where I want to start, where it says container. And we want to go to this closing div here. So let's copy down. We'll take that and we'll paste that into our templates, registration, login. I'm going to paste it above the other one. Now, what's going to happen here is it's not going to look that great. Paste and then refresh my. So if I paste this now, which I've done, and I reload the web page, let's do that again. Well, let's log out. So I think if I just write accounts and / logout, that should log me out, and it has. So if we do the same, you know what, it's just taking a bit of time. I think I'm just going to create a login and logout button. Do that, accounts and login. Oh, you can see what's happened here. So we've got our original form, and then we've got this new form with this huge Pinterest icon. It doesn't look quite like this one here, and that's because I haven't imported the CSS. So next we'll import the CSS as well. So in fact, let's just, I don't want to apply this to every single page. What I'm going to do is we're going to go to our site again, and where we have templates, in fact, let's leave templates to one side. We're going to create a new folder here called static. So new folder, let's call it static. And so this folder will serve static pages that don't change. So for example, we'll add in fact, yeah, we need a folder called CSS, and inside that we'll say login.css. So this will be our login CSS page, and I can just copy and paste what we have. So if we go back to the page there, and if we copy this, we'll borrow that. Some of the things I'm going to change because I don't want like the colors that were there, and take all this stuff. Right, now that we have a static folder, Python needs to know how to access this. So in our settings, we do have a static URL which says static, but there's more to it than that. Actually, I need to let's add an import for OS, and then what we'll do is we need to tell Django where it's going to find our static directory. Put this here. We'll say static files underscore directories is equal to os.path.join, and we'll tell it to join the base directory, and inside the base directory it will find the static. Okay, so it should now be able to find this static folder. Whoops. And then in our URLs, so in our static URLs, we also need to tell it that this static folder exists as well. So we're going to start by telling it where it is, so Django knows where it is. So we'll say from Django.config import settings. So we've imported settings file, and now let's also say from Django.conf.urls.static. We want it to import static. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to extend our URL patterns, and we're going to say URL patterns plus equals static, and you'll find that in the settings dot static URL and document underscore root equals settings dot static underscore root. That should be correct. So in our base template now, we need to do a couple of things. So let's go templates, let's go to base. First thing we're going to do is right at the top, we need to import static. So we need to be able to tell Django that we want to load static files. So we'll literally use the tag load static. And then inside our head here, after we've loaded up, for example, Bootstrap and Bootstrap icons, we also want to load, if there exists on a particular page, more CSS, another CSS file, we want to include here. So let's say block CSS, and then we'll say end block. Now the point in this is that Django will only load this extra CSS file if it's required. So it won't load this for every single other page. It's only going to load this for our login page. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go back to our registration page here. And right at the top, where we've got block content, we're going to include this above the block content. So we're going to say, this is the CSS that we're talking about. So we're going to say block CSS, and then we'll say end block and block, and then in between that we'll tell it to load this extra page that we have. So that's going to be, let's load in a link CSS file, and then what we're going to do is we're going to tell it that this belongs in the static folder. Oh, and it won't find this. We'll explain that in just a moment. So this is going to be in the static folder, in the folder called CSS, and then /, I believe it was login.css. And that won't load that unless here I've also said to load the static tag. So now that I've loaded the static tag, so load static, it should now be able to add load the static reference. So now it knows where this folder is because we've loaded that static tag. Now that we've done that, let's go back to our page and let's reload one more time. How does it look now? Okay, it's looking better, So we're going to make a few changes because we don't want this Pinterest icon to be, for a start. We're going to make some changes to that. We can get rid of this. We will do in just a moment. Clearly here we're going to add some icons, and maybe we'll change the color a bit as well. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove that logo. Let's get rid of that. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to actually just use the same logo that we had before. So to do that, let's open it up here. Let's go to Bootstrap. Oh, do you want to work? Bootstrap icons, that'll do. And let's load our film. That was the one. Now, instead of loading it as an icon, I actually want to load it as an image, just like we had. So let's borrow that, and let's put that into there. That should be perfect. Here we've got a width of 16. I think it could be a bit bigger. Let's try it at 64. Let's try 32 first. Save, and let's go back again. How do we look? Oh, okay, not perfect. We've got some work to do. Right, where we have the form, let's make some changes here, right? So in our original form here, usually in Python, we've got to include what's called a CSRF token. So we'll take it out from there and we'll put it here. So our CSRF token goes in, and this basically means cross-site reference. I think it's cross-site reference check or cross-site, yeah, something like that. And what that basically means is at the point that you're logging in, at the point that you're sending some data between yourself and the server, it makes sure that there's no tampering with the data that you sent and the data that's been received on the server. So this creates a token that just makes sure it hasn't been tampered. What we're going to have here is we've got our input group. Where are we? So here where it says key, we're going to replace that. So this is the icon for key. And the fact that they've got FA here, they're actually using font awesome. We could use font awesome, but I'm not. I've already imported Bootstrap icons, so I'm going to stick to that. And let's go back to the icons and let's search for, if it's key, that would be password, I believe. Do we have any password? Let's just stick to key. Let's go with non-fielding icons. So let's borrow that. And we'll put that there. Okay, so that's for our password. Where's the one for our username? There's the one for our username. So we need like a user icon. So we go back again. We'll just type in user. And that person will do. Okay. And now where it says input, this is the Bootstrap code for a form. In fact, it's the HTML code for a form. This is the part that makes it more bootstrapified. We're going to replace that. Let's get rid of that. Now, if you remember, we have form.asp. So we'll take that for a second because this is basically our form. But what this will do is this will render both the part for the username and for the password, and we don't want that. So here I'm just going to replace that with username. And then what we'll do is we'll do the same here as well. And we'll replace that with password. These are the two field names that are required. So that should work for us. And we'll test that out in just a moment as well. What type is, let's just say type is submit, because I want it to behave in exactly the same way. Hopefully that should be fine. In fact, what I could do here is, I mean, for today, I don't want to add all the other bells and whistles as well. We can leave that out. So if we test our page now, refresh. Okay, that's looking better. So we've got our icons, and we have our login. We can test to see if it works. So let's see, admin. Oh, it didn't take me anywhere. Oh, yes. Okay, my bad. So what's happened here is in the form, we haven't included a method. So let's take that out from there. In fact, we can take that out. We don't need that anymore. And where we have our form, we'll just say method post. So what it's doing is when it's sending the data into the form, it's actually not sending the data to the request as a post. And that's the problem that we had here. So if we try that again, so let's refresh that from here. Uh-oh. Looking for block 1 of end block on line 8 enclosed tag. Oh, yeah. Oh, I deleted it by accident. So where we have a block content, we also need to end block content. That was my mistake. So here we'll just say end block, and we'll remove that. And let's refresh one more time. So there's our login page. So we'll say that, and then we'll say that. And that's logged us in. So our login form is working. So that's cool. We could do better here, to be fair. We could do two things right now. First of all, where that div exists, let's have a margin from the top. Okay, so we'll say that, and we'll say margin y. And if I say margin y 5, we'll move it from the top. We'll give that a go. And the other thing we'll do is we'll go to our base HTML and let's throw in a button, okay, a logout button and a login button. So here, where we have our search bar, we want it, right? We want it just after the form here. In fact, so, well, I'll throw in a div here. So let's say div dot deflex. Okay, so I want my form to be in there, and I could probably now remove that for now. And then underneath it, now I want to throw my button in, but I want to have an if statement. Okay, so I want it to say, if, in fact, this should be here in the documentation. I always forget how to do this. So what we're looking for is what to do if the user is authenticated and what to do if the user is not authenticated. So that basic user, there we go. If user is not none, nope. If user, there we go. If request.user is authenticated, so we'll take that. So we'll borrow that and we'll go back to our page. So we'll say if request.user is authenticated, then we'll say that. We'll do another one of those. Oops. That one will say and if. That one will say else. So if the user is authenticated, then what we'll do is we'll have a basic button. In fact, yeah, we'll do a button and we'll have the same class. So they look the same. Boom. We'll say that this one should say logout. And copy that. And this one will say login. And then we want this to go to, in fact, you know what? Let's change that from a button to a link. Okay. And after the class, we'll add our href. And this one will be a URL. So we want the URL to be, so we're going to add login. If, oh no, sorry, it should be logout. Logout. And if we just copy that, this should be, boom, this should be login. And let's test that out. I may have to change the way this looks a bit. So if we refresh our page, oh, okay, so our button needs to be changed a little bit, but we're logged in, so it's saying logout, and that worked. It's logged us out because now, because we're logged out, it says login, and that's taking us to the correct form as well. We'll include that there again. What difference would that make? That'll do. Good enough for me. And maybe what we'll do is we'll change the color. So maybe what we'll do is we'll add a yellow color. So that could be, instead of success, that could be warning to make it yellow. Do the same here. Good. In fact, what we could do as well is we could have that slight gap that we have between these two here. So to do that, I can see here, what we have is we have a margin end 2. So we'll also have a margin end 2 here. So that will, oops, that will add the margin. Let's go back, refresh. And there we go. There's the gap that we want. So now that's our login and logout sorted. The only thing I want to do is just style the page a tiny bit more. I'm not liking the way the style is. So if we go back to CSS, okay, so where we have margin, I'm going to remove margin from here. I'm going to add that space that I wanted. So I'm going to say margin from top. How do I do that? Let's say margin top. And let's just have, let's say 100 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Height is 100%, that's fine. To be honest, if I was to say margin auto, margin top, if I was to say 50%, well, that let's log out and then log back in. Okay, so that's pushed everything on the page, and I didn't want to push my navigation bar to the middle as well. I just wanted the login part to be in. So what we'll do is we won't put that there. We'll remove the margin from the top there. And where we have, I believe the first item here is if we go to login, I'll say from user card. So user card, we'll say margin top. Oh, what did I have earlier? 50%. Okay, so let's comment that out, see what happens. Oh my god. Okay, so it starts it there in the middle. 50% no good. Maybe what I'll do is I'll say 10 or 20%. That's better. That'll do. That's fine. Now let's work with the outline here. What if I was to take that out for a second and refresh? Not bad. So I could just reduce it from here now. So I could say from here, let's reduce that to 100 pixels and 100 pixels. Let's go back to here. And if we were to go to there, where we have the image, I think what might be important here is I've removed the image. Maybe I should have kept what's on the class. Brand logo. So let's throw brand logo into our class here. Let's go back to there and refresh. You know what? I like that. Okay, now the thing I don't like is the background here is not the same as the background everywhere else. So we're going to go back to CSS here, and we're going to remove the background from there because I want it to be whatever the background was before.